There is a kind of childhood wound that does not come from violence, and it does not come from shouting. It comes from a child calling out again and again, but no one answers. Showing something they are proud of, but no one looks. Feeling sad, but no one asks. Needing to be hugged, heard, and seen, but all they receive is silence. And when this happens for long enough, the child begins to learn a very painful lesson. Maybe my feelings do not matter. Maybe my needs are a problem. Maybe it is better if I stop needing anyone at all. Psychology calls this the wound of the ignored child, the child who was overlooked. From the outside, when they grow up, they may become someone very independent, very understanding, and very low maintenance. They always handle everything on their own, always say anything is fine, and always choose silence so they do not bother other people. But underneath that independence may be a deep hidden fear. The fear of being rejected, the fear of becoming a burden, the fear that if they truly speak up, no one will stay to listen. Welcome back to Apex. In this video, we will step into the inner world of the ignored child to understand why the absence of love in the past can quietly control the way a person loves, lives, trusts, and sees themselves as an adult. And perhaps somewhere in the story, you may also find the answer to the invisible emptiness inside yourself. So why does neglect have such a destructive impact on a person? Imagine a 5-year-old child who has just fallen down, their knee bleeding, running into the house to find their mother. The mother is looking at her phone. The child stands there, crying, but no one turns around. Not because the mother hates the child, but because she simply does not notice. The child stops crying, wipes the wound on their own, and learns something they will never put into words. Maybe what happens to me is not important enough for someone else to stop. It is not a major event. There is no hitting, no shouting, just a normal afternoon. The kind of afternoon that parents would not even remember if you asked them about it. But the child remembers. Not through a clear memory, but through something far more lasting. A belief carved deep inside, before the child even has the language to name it. This is exactly what makes emotional neglect dangerous in a way abuse is not. Abuse leaves traces that other people can see, hear, and witness. But neglect leaves nothing behind. No evidence. No wound to point to. Just a child slowly learning that silence is the most normal answer they can receive from the world. Biologically, human beings are born wired to seek attachment as a survival instinct, which is what psychologist John Bowlby called attachment theory. A baby's cry is not simply a demand for food or sleep. It is a biological signal searching for protection. When that signal is answered consistently with warmth and comfort, the nervous system learns, this world is safe, I can trust. But when that signal keeps falling into silence, the amygdala, the brain's danger alarm center, begins to read that indifference as a real threat to survival. It is no different from being left alone in a dark forest. Cortisol, the stress hormone, is pumped into the bloodstream again and again. Because there is no adult nearby to soothe and regulate them, the child's nervous system gets stuck in a state of red alert. Their body does not know that the danger here is not a wild animal or a deep cliff. The danger here is the silence of a mother sitting less than 10 feet away. Over time, the child's neural pathways are reshaped, causing their stress response system to default to anxiety and self-protection, even when no real danger is happening. And when afternoons like this repeat enough times, the child's nervous system begins to adapt. It builds new ways to survive, which adults later call personality. From the outside, people often misunderstand this and praise it as being well-behaved, independent, or mature for their age. But from a psychological point of view, this is not an inborn personality. It is actually a set of defense strategies shaped over time to survive the feeling of being invisible. We can divide these masks into 4 core groups. Mask 1, the person who does everything alone, late at night. They sit alone in front of a screen, dealing with a major problem. Their phone is right beside them. Their contact list is full of people who could help, but they do not message anyone. Not because they are proud, but because deep down, they believe that reaching out means bothering someone, that their needs will become a burden, that the other person will feel disappointed, or worse, will not show up. Their hidden life motto is, if I never ask anyone for help, I will never have to feel rejected or disappointed. They are extremely sensitive to the idea of bothering other people. When they face a serious problem, instead of asking for support, They choose to stay up all night, figure it out themselves, and suffer alone. To them, showing that they need someone else feels deeply dangerous, because in the past, whenever they needed someone, no one was there. Mask 2. The person who is never enough. The child realizes something very early. When they are simply well-behaved, their parents do not see them. But when they rank first in class, when they bring home an award certificate, their parents stop for a moment and smile. Only for a moment. But for that child, that is enough to believe. Love is something I have to earn by proving my worth. As adults, they become workaholics, chasing extreme perfectionism. They keep collecting degrees, promotions, houses, and cars, not because they truly enjoy them, but because they are trying to force the world to see that they exist. But the problem is that no level of success can fill the emptiness inside. Because that emptiness was not created by a lack of achievement. It was created by the lack of being seen. Mask 3. The person who pleases everyone. They never say no, not because they are generous, but because saying no feels like shooting themselves in the foot. They constantly read other people's faces, adjust their words, adjust their tone, all to make sure the other person does not get upset. They always take the loss. They apologize even when they have done nothing wrong. This mask appears when a child learns that the only way to keep a connection is to turn themselves into a sponge, always bending around the emotions and needs of the people around them. The hidden belief is, if I am good enough and always make others happy, they will not leave me. But behind that thoughtful and warm appearance is a person who is exhausted from constantly tracking what emotions they are causing in other people, instead of being allowed to feel their own. And finally, there is a group of people who do not run anywhere. They stand still and give up. Mask 4. The person who is indifferent to everything. They avoid big goals. They do not dare to challenge themselves. They often choose jobs below their true ability. From the outside, people see laziness or a lack of ambition. But inside is a conclusion shaped by hundreds of moments of being ignored. If no one is going to see me anyway, then why even try? This indifference is actually a very refined form of armor. If they do not hope, they will never be hurt when they are overlooked. If they do not reach out, they will not have to feel what it is like to stretch their hand forward and have no one reach back. Whether they choose to wear the mask of strong self-reliance or the cold armor of indifference, they all share one thing when night falls: a quiet kind of exhaustion. That is when the mask works at full force to hide a deeply wounded child inside. These defensive masks can work very well in helping a child survive the years of childhood inside their family. But when they carry that same shield and mask into the world of adult relationships, such as friendship, romantic love, and work relationships, those masks begin to create quiet cracks and misunderstandings. The core reason lies in what psychoanalyst Donald Winnicott called mirroring, the reflection of identity. In natural psychological development, a child comes to understand who they are by seeing their emotions reflected through the eyes and recognition of their parents. When you cry and your mother says, "You are sad, aren't you? I'm here now," you learn how to name and accept sadness. But for ignored children, that mirror was broken. They grow up with a very unclear sense of who they are. When they step into a romantic relationship, this lack pushes them into two extreme patterns. The first is anxious attachment. The moment they meet someone who gives them a little attention and warmth, they immediately place their entire world on that person. They become anxious, always afraid the other person will disappear, and constantly need words of love and reassurance to cover the fear of abandonment that has already sunk deep into them. The second is avoidant attachment. When the relationship begins to grow deeper and asks for emotional openness, they immediately feel trapped and find a way to push the other person away. Their brain sends out a warning signal: do not invest your feelings here. Sooner or later, this person will ignore me just like my parents did. Pull away before you get hurt. But psychology does not stop at wounds. There is something few people realize, and even the people living through it often do not know about themselves. No matter which mask they choose, doing everything alone, chasing achievement, pleasing everyone, or giving up, there is one thing they quietly become better at than most people around them, even though no one ever taught them. That is the ability to read people. Because they had to learn how to read their environment to survive far too early, their nervous system becomes an extremely sensitive radar station. They know exactly when someone is sad, even when that person is smiling. They notice the smallest change in tone, a quick frown, a silence that lasts a little longer than usual. They always know how to choose the gentlest words to soothe someone else. They are the most wonderful listeners, always becoming the emotional support their friends turn to in a crisis. Psychology calls this cognitive empathy combined with emotional empathy. It means they do not just understand with logic, but truly absorb and live inside the emotions of other people. This is deeply connected to the mirror neuron system. When they see someone express an emotion, these cells in their brain light up as if they themselves were directly experiencing that emotion. But the price of this superpower is inner exhaustion. They can turn on their radar to catch and hold the emotional pain of the whole world, but completely turn off their own signal. When they themselves feel pressured or hurt, instead of looking for help, they choose to suffer quietly because they are afraid their presence will bother other people or become a burden. That is their most heartbreaking paradox. The person who can understand others most deeply is often the very person who is least truly understood by anyone. They give empathy as naturally as breathing, but they do not know how to receive it because receiving, to them, still feels dangerous. And when they recognize that, not through self-blame but through understanding, the real journey begins. The brain is not something fixed forever. Research from the Center on the Developing Child at Harvard University shows something many people do not expect. Anxious neural pathways formed in childhood can absolutely be rebuilt. This is neuroplasticity. Every time you act differently from your old defensive habit, even in a very small way, you are creating a new neural connection with your own hands, not through willpower, through repeated action, until the nervous system learns a new lesson. Safety is real. Principle 1. Validate yourself first. In schema therapy, this is called reparenting, the process of becoming the caregiver your inner child never had. Instead of waiting for someone else to come and see you, you have to be the first person to do that for yourself. When an emotion rises, whether it is hurt, anxiety, or anger, stop judging yourself as too sensitive. Name it and stand on its side. I am feeling hurt, and that is completely normal. My need to be cared for is valid. Every time you do that, you are repairing the broken mirror of mirroring from long ago. Principle 2. Stop personalizing everything. The brain of an ignored child always lives in the future, constantly running scenarios about how they might be rejected so they can prepare themselves emotionally. Pull your mind back to the present. When you send a message and the other person has not replied yet, notice the restlessness in your body, then tell yourself, they have not replied yet. That is just an objective event. This is only data, not proof of my worth. Allow events to happen naturally without turning everything into something personal. Principle 3. Speak up through the smallest things. For someone who has done everything alone since the age of 7, asking someone to buy them a cup of water can feel as dangerous as standing on the edge of a cliff. That does not mean you are weak. It means you are truly being brave. Start with very small things that do not carry a high risk. Ask a coworker to buy you a cup of water, ask a family member to get something for you, or say one simple thing you want during dinner. When you dare to speak up and receive a positive response, your nervous system takes in completely new data. Speaking up is safe. My needs are respected. Over time, these small revolutions will heal your wounded sense of self. The journey of healing and self-validation does not only free you, it also carries a more sacred mission, breaking the cycle of generational hurt. Through the lens of psychology, your parents, the people who once ignored you, are not evil people. Deep down, they were also abandoned children in the past. Growing up in a time of lack, their nervous systems became frozen in survival mode. They provided for you materially with everything they knew, but they were completely helpless when it came to emotional connection. They could not give you something they had never received. Economic pressure and the distraction of modern technology today can also push them even further into unconscious emotional absence. Understanding this is not about making excuses or forcing you to forgive. Your hurt is real and deserves to be respected. Looking at it scientifically is meant to help you let go of resentment, escape the trap of victimhood, and realize this. This chain of trauma may have lasted for many generations, but it can end with yours. Imagine a future. You, an adult who has walked through the journey of self-healing, are sitting in the living room. Your small child runs home from school, excitedly telling you a silly story with no clear beginning or end. Even though you are exhausted after a long day at work, even though your phone is flashing with notifications, you still choose to put it down. You turn toward your child, Sit down so your eyes are at the same level, listen closely, and smile. That sounds so interesting. Tell me more. In that very moment, your eyes become the perfect reflecting mirror, confirming to the child, you exist, you matter, and your feelings are valued. Through one simple choice, you have officially cut off a link in the chain of hurt, protecting the next generation from the invisible wound you once had to carry. If these words have touched some hidden corner of your mind, helped you feel a little lighter, or given you a new way to look at what you have been through, leave a comment below. Which mask do you recognize yourself in the most? Your sharing may be the emotional validation that someone out there desperately needs in order to know they are not alone. Your understanding today may be exactly what someone else needs. Press like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with a friend. Someone who is also carrying an inner child who has never been truly seen. Thank you for spending your time watching until these final moments. I am Apex. Goodbye, and I will see you again in the next Journeys into Psychology.